I've always said, and I'm unapologetic about it, I am not Mother Earth.
On our first guest on our podcast, the Mumtrepreneur Raising Business and Babies, we're going to have my close friend and mentor in business, Gillian. She founded an events business, which actually worked with City Cruises over 8 years ago. That's how we kind of built our relationship. And she's a mother of 3. And I'm really interested to explore her journey and her successes. Thank you for joining me for my first guest. And I couldn't have asked anyone...
First guest, I'm honoured.
Well, I couldn't have asked anyone more fitting for the role. Mother of 3.
Correct.
Very successful.
Guilty.
Very successful entrepreneur in your own right.
Thank you.
A mentor to my events career in the latter years. And we've become really good friends. And also my drinking buddy. I mean... I can't believe it's 3 p.m, not 3 a.m.
I was going to say we should do this in a bar.
We definitely have to do this in a bar.
Absolutely.
I think it's called Jerry's. I think that's opens at 5.
Oh, I'm a VIP member there.
100%.
I go there. It's geriatrics. They call it.
It's a bit different when you
Nice
turn.
Nice one.
So I wondered if we could start at the beginning. So for the listeners kind of understanding where we're going to go for the journey, this is really about juggling business and parenthood. And really, as a mum and a mumtrepreneur in business, understanding how you got there, what the business scope looked like, and really facing the challenges being a parent and raising a business. Because you're going to have a whole roller coaster of this, and I'm excited for the version.
There's a lot in there.
There's
a lot in there to unravel. So I would say that my career and being a mum kind of started, obviously met the guy, got married. At the time, I was running a nightclub with Paul Oakenfold called Home. So I was a director there. Lots and lots of late nights. Met my husband. And when we got together, weirdly, the club I was working for folded, and I set up my first event company with a partner. I was so into my career. I mean, I couldn't believe that people paid me to do something I love so much. But as a result, I only took off 3 weeks with each child. I literally had a baby, cesarean, back to work. It's just what it was like. So when the pandemic happened and I had to close down the business and make everyone redundant, I kind of went home and they went, "Oh, hi."
Yeah. Well, welcome back, Mum.
Like, hi. And I hadn't really been a cook. I now cook loads.
Amazing.
But I had a nanny. Let's put it this way: when I got divorced, I was more gutted when the nanny left than when my husband left. 1,000%, because that kind of practical help.
Yeah, of course.
But listen, you know what it's like, Lucy. In events, you work days and nights. I mean, you do.
Well, it's a lifestyle
You do whatever
role.
it takes. It really is a lifestyle role. And also you've got to be that person who's got their finger on the pulse. So you're invited to lots of glamorous occasions, and that's why your clients use you, because you know what's going on. I mean, you must remember the first time we all met. Yeah, I turned one of your boats pink.
Yes,
for benefit makeup on the Thames.
One of our biggest clients and takeovers are one of Gary's restaurants, the Hispaniola, and that's really where we became, I suppose, acquainted in our career path. Yeah. It was amazing. That contract actually was,
how long was that contract for, actually?
A year. So we had a pink boat for a year. I think we kept the carpet for one of my many parties.
I guess we kept the stuff that nobody wanted, I suppose. So, yeah.
I think they took the makeup.
They took the makeup, unfortunately. We got the pink carpet.
No, it was a great contract, I think, for all of us.
I think for us it was really exciting because we hadn't even contemplated those kind of deals with partners. So that was an exciting time for us as well.
But I think that's the time when collaboration really started. Yeah. Because now, of course, you've got collaboration between music and film, between brands and
influencers,
and influencers, but that's a really recent phenomenon. So to have an installation like that for a year, and it became a bit of a landmark, didn't it?
And what's the chances that you chose us? And
exactly.
we crossed paths.
We were destined to be besties forever.
Definitely destiny. And we bumped into each other at many occasions, but later in our time together I had a really big challenge, and that's when I kind of turned to you and said, I had 2 babies, I lost my PA, I was struggling, and you were like, dust yourself off, get back on the horse.
Absolutely.
This is what I did. And actually seeing you was a real inspiration. I've always been really honest about that, how inspiring I would see your journey and kind of looking at mine as we are years apart, but actually we've got so much in common just on our journeys.
Well, I think we're similar characters, and I think Gary will be testament to this, is we're not victims, and you've got to be grateful for what you've got and not what you haven't got. Yeah. I think actually the benefits of being an entrepreneur and having your own business with children is that when you need to take the time off, you can. Yeah. So you're not going to miss a school assembly. You're not going to miss a first step because you can be around. You're not like working in the city 9 to 5, or 8 till 7, as a lot of mothers do. If you need to be home, you can be, which I think is great. I mean, I've always said, and I'm unapologetic about it, I am not Mother Earth by no means. I really am not. I didn't grow up thinking I'm desperate to have kids. My kids are still a bit like, oh, here comes Florence Nightingale with major sarcasm. But you know what? I've got great kids. I mean, you've met my kids.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They're great people, much older than yours. Yeah, so I will always say to you that I personally think that the older the children get, the more they need you. They love having you around now, don't get me wrong, but they won't really remember that. They'll remember the feeling of having a nice childhood, as long as they're safe and looked after. Now my children use me as a guide. I'm a mentor.
Well, it's the FaceTimes. I can't keep up. We're having dinner. I know. And Amy's ringing. I'm like, what could she possibly want?
Only money, darling. Of course. That's all they ever want.
Oh, no, wait, what about the big disaster in M&S when she couldn't find, what was she looking for? She was looking for certain food and she's like, Mum, it's an emergency, ring me. We're like, ringing her.
Oh, no, that was peanut butter in the cupboard.
I mean, literally, like.
I said, only call me
an emergency.
It's an emergency. She went, it's an emergency. Excellent. Can't find the peanut butter.
And those are the bits I love learning from you.
But Gary, it must be the same with you. I mean, I have the relationship with my children. They're now, 20s, teenagers, that you had with Lucy. Then she looked up to you, and I'm sure, listen, I've not always had the best relationship. And I think if a child doesn't hate you at some point in their life, then you're probably not doing a good job. Would you agree?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The ages determine exactly what moods they're in. Yeah. 100%. I think I said that to you before, isn't it? About, when they're a teenager, you'll understand why animals eat their young, because that's 100%. Exactly what happens. They just go through these different phases, and they do. It does change, and they ask you different questions, of course.
Yeah.
So.
And you become different things to them. I also think there's a turning point with children where you're almost not their parents anymore. They can actually see you as people as well. I'm not sure when that turning point is, but you can certainly look at them in a different way. And I guess we have different uses for them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you get older, they start saying, no, you sit down, I'll go and get that. And I'm thinking, wow, this is payback. This is lovely.
Yeah. Plan your days now.
Yeah.
Our turn to look after you, right? I'm waiting for that. Still not looked after.
It's coming. I suppose one of the questions I'd love to know, going through your business journey and being a mother, what and when did you really find big challenges where you felt this is tough, like business needs me, I need to be a mum? And how did you overcome those? Because there must have been pivotal moments in your career where you thought, this is difficult.
I've always had a bit of a motto. Okay, a bit of a go-to, which is, I always say, what is the worst that can happen? Seriously, what is the worst? I mean, there have been moments where I've had a call and I've been deep in the West End at, let's say, at a film premiere, setting up in the afternoon, and the nursery's called and said, I think someone's forgotten to pick up your child, because someone hasn't been there for 2 hours, and you think, but what is the worst that can happen? Someone is going to go, hopefully pick him up. But also, in the nicest possible way, I don't do brain surgery. I put on parties, So, again, what is the worst that can happen? Although I have had disasters, don't get me wrong. I've had power cuts with 1,000 people. I've had, all kinds of things. But I just think you have to be balanced.
Yeah.
I can honestly say, I think that I'm lucky that I haven't suffered from any mental health issues, which I know that you have been through. So I have been, and that's why you can always lean on me, because I just
see it differently. Yeah,
I do see it differently. I really do. If people have to wait for me, they have to wait for me. If I can't even think of a scenario that could be that bad.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I suppose for me, more, some of the language and some of the people I speak to in business, for an example, last week, and you're very right, like you take time off, it's selective. Even when we asked the children earlier, you have to, the children will say, it's lovely that you work for yourself because you have more time and you can do different things. The choice is there. And that's always been a measure of success for me. But I think there have been moments in my business where I have made mistakes. I have had to rectify them, and I've had to make tough calls. Like, I need to go to the school for the open evening, but I have to do my VAT return that's essential. I need to go and do whatever, the accountants for the end of the year, and I need to go and do this work because the people I've wanted to work with I need to go and rectify it. And I've had to make those choices. And I think they're the scenarios I come up against, which are really tough when you have to make a business decision, when really I have that mum guilt.
But let me ask you this again. What's the worst that could happen? What, it's a day late for your accountants?
Yeah, and I think that's the bit. I mean, that's the issue, is kind of where you place your priority. And I think sometimes my learnings are trusting other people in the business scape when you're at the top.
That's a big thing. Really you have to be able to delegate.
Yeah, really well.
And I know a lot of people who are not able to delegate and think that they have to do everything. Yeah. You do not have to do everything.
Yeah.
You have to be able to delegate. And as you progress, you will have people doing other things for you because you'll want more free time, with the kids, with Aaron, Growing, I think you'll get to that point.
I think it's difficult. I think you've learned in your business, you always said to me, one of your lessons was the cheapest thing to hire was smart people, right?
Yeah,
it was
brains,
great brains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you actually built a team of board of directors, but that must have been really challenging to go through that process.
Every person around the table that was running their particular department, they were very good at it. And each one of those people around there, I could not have done their job. So for me, I kind of had the best board you could possibly have.
I really agree with that. I think a smart person is someone who surrounds themselves with smart people. Yeah. I can't do everything. I need somebody who does my design or my production or my accounts or my social media. I can't do all of that. I can bring it all together and make it happen.
Well, I guess people that can't delegate, do they have a business or do they have a job?
Well, they probably should have a job and not a
business.
But
I mean, the job is what they're doing. And because they can't delegate,
correct,
they've actually got a job. And it actually makes your business less valuable.
Well,
because there's nothing, you can't sell anything. You've got nothing to sell, because if you're in every department, if you're micromanaging, then actually your business is worth less, because somebody coming along can't buy it because
they can't buy you.
They can't buy you.
No,
so
that's right.
So management, a fantastic management team is always the solution. I mean, if you're in a shop selling 10 washing machines and you decide that you have to come out of doing that, a lot of people won't be able to cope with hiring somebody that only sells 7 washing machines. For me, I'd immediately employ 2 people, because all of a sudden you're selling 14.
Absolutely.
So, and if you employ 3, it's the numbers game, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I guess some people are not wired that way to be able to do that in business.
Also, remember, you've got to do what you do best. What I do best is go and meet people, network with people, make connections. My strength is not writing invoices.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get someone else to do that. My strength is not actually building proposals. So I will get someone to do that. My strength is sitting at Soho House having lunch.
I'm excellent between midday and midnight. I suppose on my journey, I can really relate to the scenarios I went through. But I wonder, did you have social expectations when you became pregnant and you became a mum, living, doing 3 weeks maternity, technically not maternity, 3 weeks rest? Did you feel social pressure? Now, I understand your character and I'm similar in a lot of the thought processes, but was there a social expectation that you really challenged? Because when I did the same, I had a lot of uproar for like, you're back here so soon. I'm like, A, none of your business, and secondly, you didn't ask where the father is. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a 50-50 split. What was that social expectation like, and how did you deal with it?
I think the biggest pressure I had was from my mother, actually. And interestingly, my mother's a barrister. And now she says to me, thank God you didn't take any time off and you still carried on with your career, because she didn't carry on with her career and she should have done.
Yeah.
And now, you know, she's off doing a master's in history. She's, you know, she's doing things to fill her time, whereas actually she's a very clever woman. And so I had that pressure from family saying you shouldn't be going back, you should be there more for your children, etc., etc. Actually, what I think there was a lot of social pressure on at the time was that you would meet people in business who didn't have children, and women were looked at in a kind of way of, oh, you haven't had kids. You know, it was actually a bit the other way around. If there was social pressure at that time, I mean, you know me, I don't listen to anyone anyway. I just do what I want. But it felt right for me. And it still feels right for me. I mean, after 8 months of the pandemic at home, I thought I'm either going to bury the children under the patio or I've got to go back to work. So I've always been that kind of person. But I do get, it's like that thing of breastfeeding. Yes, there's social pressure to breastfeed. Well, I didn't want to, so I didn't. But you then have to be, I guess, a strong person
to deal with it.
To not deal. So did you have a lot of pressure?
Yeah, massive. I mean, not by my family or anyone, but I suppose I had postnatal depression undiagnosed for the first with Alfie, and with Chloe, I knew I self-diagnosed because of the feeling. But that was tough in those times to explain to other people that didn't have that journey. They'd never been in an entrepreneurial family. They'd never had a business. They worked from 9 to 5. What do you mean not taking a year off work? What are you going to do for the child? Who you're having to have your child? Is it a nanny? Well, why are you having a nanny? What's about the nursery? I mean, it was like...
See, those questions are no one else's business.
Firstly,
as long as you take care of your family, then what business is it of theirs?
I think it's just when I was the first in my social scene, really, of my girlfriends and people around. I mean, everyone very supportive in terms of, this is what Lucy does, but it was different to anybody else I knew. I didn't feel like I had someone like you that I didn't meet till later in my life that actually understood that. You know, no one around me had children or had those pressures, and I'd never met
that must
somebody.
Have been tough.
Yeah, it was tough, and I think I'd never met anyone. I was 29 years of age when I had Alfie, and Aaron and I started a business together. We hadn't been together too long, like 2 years. You know, we had this baby, and I was like, oh God, I know how hard it is to have a business, because that's like a baby. And I have now to train someone. And the silliest part, I think, of my journey was that I cleared my diary when I knew I was going to give birth, but I didn't book stuff back in. So I had this void of time that I was like, well, I'm used to having 3 meetings a day and being busy and socializing. Yeah. And that's probably my biggest mistake, because I felt like I had nothing. It was such a dramatic change.
And also the pressure to bond with the baby while clearing your diary. I mean, I do remember when I did go back to work after 3 weeks, I would literally open my bag like to, you know, in a sandwich shop, and nappies would fall out. Or like, you know, a drinking bottle, like I hadn't even changed my bag. I'd gone back to work that quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and but you know, you do have a support with your parents, which listen, I did as well, so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
And but I'm sorry about your antenatal depression, because a really good friend of mine went through that, and no one can talk you out of it.
No, it's a hormone imbalance.
Those pressures are those pressures. No one can talk you out of it.
So when you had the babies and you went through those journeys, how did you find someone to help? What was the coping strategy, like finding somebody to support their nanny and finding? So that's a question I get asked a lot by women going back to careers and or in business. They say, well, where do I look? How do I get help? What does that feel like? Was there anything specific that you did that you can recall that helped your journey?
I think I was, like you were the first one in your group, I was not. So I already had lots and lots of friends who had children. And I'm, you know, was in a tight-knit community. So yeah, it was word of mouth.
It was easier.
Yeah, it was so much easier. And then there was help. I had a night nurse, so I didn't have to get up in the middle of the night to feed the baby. And then I had a nanny who only really, when they were little, would be there all day. Mm-hmm. But then my husband was quite hands-on as well, and he would, be home for a couple of hours. And then I was always home by about 6 or 7, unless I had a really big event that one of my staff couldn't look after.
Amazing.
But I was lucky because help was kind of at hand. And like I said, I wasn't the first one. So where did you find your help from?
It was actually one of my people I trained up from as an employee. She came through and she saw the distress I was in after having the baby. And Aaron was very negative to having somebody to raise our children. It was very foreign for him because his parents are very hands-on. And I just knew that I didn't want to give up my position. He wasn't willing to give up his either, although he did 70% of the work in the beginning. So together we found a solution, but through time. It took, Alfie was 18 months before we had any help. My mum and dad stepped in when he was very tiny to help through the depression. So I went back to work quite quickly. And you were there, super dad.
I felt like I had a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
in the beginning.
Yeah. First 6 months. Yeah.
But Dad's very process driven, which is really interesting looking at him as a granddad and as a business owner. So in business, Gary's always been, process. And, the founder of the McDonald's stories, that is it, that's business. You have to improve your processes. And then had this baby and he's like, Lucy, it's a process. The nappies are out, the wipes are there, you had to change your clothes. Whereas I was like you, I had nappies and bottles and I
was chaos. I was a walking bag of chaos.
Me too.
So I was juggling. I was definitely juggling. I think sometimes successfully, sometimes maybe not so successfully. But, I had to own it. But you were there obviously very hands-on, weren't you?
Yeah, I gave up work really the first 6 months.
Yeah, when Alfie was 2018, so you still had city cruises. Yeah. Gary I used to get photographs of Gary and Alfie, of him at the boats with Alfie in a life ring that said Moe and Shandon. And I was like, Dad, have you taken the baby to the champagne bar? He said, well, the staff are looking after him, which is exactly my journey.
Please tell me you were drinking champagne and the staff were looking after the baby.
Not when I was in charge of the baby, 100%.
But definitely that's
okay, you can tell me later, Gary.
Yeah, but that's definitely how we got through the first stage. And then eventually when we needed help as an employee, that gave me a recommendation. And, it was so funny.
I think Victoria. It gave me an insight into the pain and distress that new mums have when they have children, when they're going through this. It's horrendous to watch. And you feel helpless. Oh, I can look after the baby and drive Lucy to wherever she needed to be driven to, but you can't mend the pain that's in ladies there, and it's not isolated. And you times it by 8 billion people in the world, and you think this is horrendous. And I guess it's not recognised. No, even today.
That's a problem. It's not recognised unless you've been through it, you have a friend who's been through it, and you've actually seen someone like that. I still have a very good friend who has periods of anxiety where she's literally bedridden. She cannot get out of bed. Her anxiety is so bad. Funny enough, the same friend who suffered with postnatal depression.
Well, I still have it today with anxiety.
Do you?
If I had it post the wedding recently, and actually it's the mood, the hormone that doesn't kick in that causes that. Your body learns anxiety, but you had the same journey. So Gary had very similar, which he now recognises as probably postnatal depression. And the things that we have, it's like the same story, but Gary can't fly because it gives him anxiety. It's not the flight he's frightened of, it's the anxiety trigger. And I have the same trigger. Exactly the same trigger.
I've learned something new about both of you today. I didn't know that.
So I struggle to travel in anywhere I feel out of control. I start to have the same.
It's not
feeling.
even the flying, because I flew quite recently, but it's the anxiety of thinking of flying, which is even worse.
It's almost like the anticipation of it.
Yeah. It's almost worse than the actual reality. But I think it's
the
interesting.
taking off, and also that's kind of, the flying is not a problem, and landing is superb because I figure I'm getting closer to the ground every second.
You've arrived.
You've arrived. So I know a lot about your business journey from 19 Events, but it'd be really lovely to hear about your career and your business journey since 19 Events and what you're up to now.
Okay, so when the pandemic happened, I'd been working in events for 29 years. And I think, in a way, it was a bit of a natural break for me. I had to make a lot of staff redundant. It was quite unpleasant. I mean, we did face-to-face events and those were obviously cancelled. And, I was turning 50 during the pandemic, and I kind of thought to myself, there's lots and lots of other agencies out there who are very digital, much more kind of younger thinking. And I kind of felt it was time to take on some more challenges. So I, like I said, I went home for 8 months, had fun with the kids, and then decided I needed to...
A business.
I needed to get back out into the workforce. So I was actually toying with an idea with Audrey Hepburn's son. He approached me to bring an exhibition to the UK. It didn't pan out because they ended up going to Singapore, only because Europe was much slower of coming out of the pandemic than places like Singapore, Dubai, etc., etc. So it kind of never panned out. I then went, I became a chief marketing officer for a very large charity, where I kind of went in as a bit of a disruptor. And I kind of used all my marketing, comms experience, and I kind of went and interviewed people, made a plan, secured them a head of communications who I stole from Shelter for them, and set up a landmark event for them, which would raise their profile. So I did that for a while, and I really enjoyed it. And then through that, I was approached by a woman who has been a serial entrepreneur herself and was very ADD. So coming back to the anxiety, to the mental health. And we decided to bring out a natural supplement for neurodivergence. So we went into production with that, and that's still going. It's a difficult industry. But, I've learned a lot about e-commerce, and, and I'm grateful to have learned a new skill, which is fun. So on the flip side of that, we've got a stress toy company.
Lovely.
Just one of our little products. But, you talk about anxiety. I cannot tell you how many people, children and adults, fiddle. They don't focus on things. I mean, I have friends who, pick the skin around their nails or pull their hair, or,
I know a few of them.
or hold ribbons or slinkies or something. So we've got things ranging from tiny little things like this to big things you can put on an office desk. Nice. So we've started that up as well, and that's kind of quite popular. So I'm kind of in a very different realm.
In an e-commerce space.
Yeah, but then I have now set up something else. I haven't told you about this.
No, this is all brand new information.
Brand new. So a really good friend of mine who had a jewellery brand called Lola and Me, and she's MBE. She sold out that business a while ago, and we were sitting there thinking, we are so well connected, we know so many people, that we're going to do like an introduction agency, not a dating agency, but a business introduction agency. And we've got our first 2 clients. So one is a film producer who is looking for brand placement in her films, and the other one is an artist and a milliner who are doing an exhibition together. And they're looking for some sponsorship. They're looking for some female role models. I was going to talk to you about this, to join the project. So they've got people like Martha Sitwell. They've got, all sorts of people. So I've got a few fingers in a few pies and a few peas.
In a few pods.
And a few pods. There you go. So that's
amazing. Very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Lovely to see it come.
That's why I get called a serial entrepreneur, I guess.
Serial entrepreneur. If you had some tips for mums that are watching and listening and are in business, if you look back on your career, what would be the golden nuggets you'd like to share?
I would say try not to listen to the voices around you. You know what? When you look in the mirror at night, you know you're a good mum. You know you've been there for them and, you know, you've done your best. Okay, don't let anyone tell you any different. You know, it's hard to be in a million places. My biggest thing is, though, don't micromanage people. Let an expert get on with that, what that person's got to do.
Jarvis, yeah.
You know, and if you need to be home, business people will wait. And if they don't, then they're not the right people for you to be in business with.
Yeah, great advice. I think it's very true. You know, when if it's not the right fit for you, it doesn't mean it's not the right fit for someone else, but it has to be your choice. You have to cut it down.
Absolutely. And we can choose who we work with.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the nicety.
Well, we're lucky. There's a lot of people out there who can't choose. But I've had clients who have had my staff in tears because of just their manner. And I've said, I'm sorry, you're not going to treat my people like that. I'm not taking the job.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you've got to, to get respect from people, you've got to be your own person.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and make your own decisions. Don't listen to those other voices. Because normally the people who are criticising you is because there's something wrong with them.
Go on, Nugget.
Good advice.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us for my first podcast, and thanks so much for being here with Gary and I. And I really hope that we can help boost your profile for your business, and hopefully we can give our listeners some, really incentive. We'd love to share your socials and your handles, and if anyone would like to get in contact and follow your journey,
awesome.
then
Lovely.
We'd love to. So thank you, lots of love.
Thank you, and to you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It was lovely to see Gillian and find out about her new businesses.
Fantastic, yeah. Isn't it interesting? Every single person's got a backstory, and it just tells you that business is tough. It's hard. You got to concentrate. It's hard work, and things come along and it changes your life. COVID changed the lives of so many people in the world, and how many businesses struggled and failed, and maybe because they just couldn't pay the rent, and who knows, but. Yeah,
Well, hello.
Hello.
I had
absolutely.
three of mine struggled through COVID. And actually, isn't it interesting that the natural break for Gillian came because of circumstantial changes that probably wouldn't have happened in any other, it was unprecedented times, and she took that opportunity. But as an entrepreneur and a serial entrepreneur, as all of us do, we pivoted. She's found an e-commerce business. She's now thriving in a new industry. She's now got 2 or 3 smaller projects, which she's actually spending her time and really enjoying. I suppose we didn't go through that as a family business because we pitched the time right. But, for us, actually, if we reflected on that, that could have been a different journey.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if we hadn't have exited, then I'm not sure we'd have retained the company at all. Really, we just wasn't big enough to be able to cope. But
we're doing self-row boats in York, I think.
Self-row, yeah. We can't afford the fuel and the engines, but also, philosophically about the children and the early, with the children in the beginning, the early part of their life, and really interesting, and it's nice for mums to say, they struggled and. They need all the help they can get to help with the children, and that complete cycle that she went through, and now she's reaping the rewards of the children growing up and they're being nicer people now, and because you got less responsibility and you'd have to be everywhere at the same time, and business and mum, it kind of works, but it's tough. You got to be focused. You got to be out there willing to roll your sleeves up and hard work.
I think what I've learned from even just listening with Gillian, I know her well anyway, but just hearing the business side today is that actually it takes a village to raise a baby, and that's consistent for anyone. It doesn't matter who's in your village, but you have to put people and mechanisms there to get through that, especially alongside a business in a career path. You have to have help. There needs to be support, whether that's partner and or family, hired, government support with the nurseries and free childcare. That has to go hand in hand, and it needs to be recognised and accepted and non-judged, so that people can really do what they want to do with their life. It's not a curse, it's a blessing to have children, but you need to make sure that it's supported.
Yeah.
So,
well done, Gillian. Great to see her again. Great little stories, and yeah, this is what this is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finding these stories, sharing the knowledge, and hoping we're making everybody's life a bit easier because of it.
Mumtrepreneur, raising business and babies.